about acknowledging the logic of the situation. It's about understanding the dynamics, seeing the threads at play, following them to their logical conclusion, and seeing what that tells you. Now, none of that is a guarantee, none of that gives you certainty, but it helps ensure you've considered it. It helps ensure you've considered things from different angles and you're trying to understand different perspectives. Short of that, right? If you're not doing that, you have to seriously consider the fact that you might be off, that you might be looking at it wrong, that you might be missing or undervaluing a critical piece of information. So I'm starting off pretty abstract here, but what I'm trying to get at is that I don't think it should be as controversial or as debated or as confusing that we need to question ourselves much more. We need to, particularly in moments when we are extremely emotionally charged, right? If it's a topic that we care a lot about, if it's a family member that we think needs some help and they don't recognize it and we're trying to get them to see it and get them to take the help, as an example. Those situations can be very emotionally charged. The stakes may be really high. There might be a lot of background and baggage involved. It's very sensitive topics. It's about people that you love and you care for and you're concerned for them, and fear is definitely at play. So when you have all of that stuff in there, it gets very emotionally charged. And it's a telltale sign when you're talking about the topic, right? And you're trying to express your views on it. If those views are being expressed in such a way that are just filled with that emotional charge, that's okay, right? That's natural for all the reasons we just said. But follow that thread. Follow the logic of what that means and what it implies. It's not to say that you're wrong. It's not to say that you're bad or that you're doing something that's, a mortal sin. It's just following the logical thread. If I can't talk about this topic, if I can't express my views on it without the emotional charge, without getting so worked up, without my rhetoric changing, without my tone changing, without this huge reaction that I bring to it, right? If I can't do that, and at the same time, I understand logically that our minds are geared towards that we're constantly trying to simplify things. We're constantly trying to make things make sense in the way that we want to see them that is most comfortable for us. If we know those two things are true, well, then logically, you follow the thread, we have to entertain the possibility that we're biased in this, that we don't have clarity on it, that we're not seeing it clearly, that emotional charge is pairing with this deep craving of our minds to make things simple in a cohesive, tight story that makes sense and makes us comfortable. Those things are working together, possibly, to lead us astray, to make us not see it as clearly as we could, to make us not understand a different perspective, to stop us from questioning ourselves and thinking, where might I be off in this? What might I be missing? Or even, maybe I'm not off in this, but how can I maybe be acting differently to get to the outcome I want to get to? Maybe I see it exactly right, but my ability to communicate it, my ability to act upon it is being impacted because of this emotional charge. Because I'm so passionate about it and I'm so emotionally invested, it's stopping me from getting to the outcome I want to get to. I mean, if you listen to the words I said before, I said I can't understand why that's so controversial or confusing, right? Never did I say I can't understand why it's so hard, because I can completely understand why it's so hard. It's for all the reasons we've already said. That's what our minds want to do. And we care, right? It's not as if we're doing this and we're thinking like, oh, how can I be evil today? How can I really fuck up somebody's day and just be an asshole? No. We have a story that tells us we are the hero of this story. We are the ones that's trying to save somebody. We're the ones that's trying to make a difference. We're the ones that's been harmed in some way and we're trying to fix it and we're trying to fight back. Whatever the story is, there's a reason. And that reason almost inevitably puts us in a really positive light. It puts the actions and the things we're doing in a perspective where, thank God for us. Thank God for this work we're doing and that we're so strong and we're so committed to it, that we're willing to stick to this, even as people might tell us we're wrong and even as people disagree with us. We are committed and we have resolve and we have commitment to this thing we believe in. It all makes sense. And that's what makes it so hard, and that's what makes us so vulnerable to it. But you have to be able to separate the hardness of it, right? That aspect of it that makes it really difficult to execute on, and the conceptual aspect that tells us that this likely is true. It's likely that we're missing something. It's likely that we're not looking at this clearly. You have to be able to separate those two things. That we should be able to do, because I believe that's the first step. The first step, it's right, like the cliche, the first step is admitting you have a problem. It's very similar to that here, right? The first step is conceptually, logically understanding the idea and the dynamics at play that suggest I might have a problem. Let's even forget about how we're going to fix it. Let's forget about how hard it's going to be to actually change our behavior or to admit we might be doing something wrong. Put all that to the side for a second, because we're never going to get there if we can at least conceptually in an abstract way acknowledge that this set of dynamics that's at play here, if you follow that thread, it likely leads to a scenario where I'm off in some way, or at least I could be, and I need to consider that. Once we can accept that, once we can accept that that's true, then we can start to do the work about how do we act upon that. How do we do the hard work of trying to change our behavior? How do we do the hard work of trying to better empathize with somebody? How do we do the hard work of trying to get that different perspective so we can pressure test and see where maybe we need to change something, or maybe not, right? Maybe it just helps us with the confidence that we've done the work and we feel okay moving forward with this decision, not with certainty, but with confidence. That's got to be the goal. And I think it's got to go in that progression. I think that's the pattern it has to follow. So it starts with that logical, conceptual understanding of what's at play. And that's what I try and do. I try and get people in conversations that are tense or worked up like this to do that. And the only way you can do it, the only way I can do it, right? Because pretty much I'm trying to do the same thing. I'm trying to save somebody now, right? I see a problem. I see something that they might not be handling right. And I think I know better. So now I need to convince them of that. Well, now we're in that same cycle. Is I have to practice what I preach. I have to do the same. I have to make sure I can detach those two things. I have to make sure my emotional charge and emotional investment and all those things and the way in which the mind works isn't coming into play here. I'm very passionate about being logical, about being objective, about trying to have different perspectives, about not being certain. So it's very easy for my mind to grasp onto that and say, all right, you got it right now. Now you can get fired up and you can make your point. And what you believe is right and it must be true. All those things. No, I have to detach from that. I have to remove myself from that. I have to acknowledge what that means and make sure that I'm doing the work to push that aside and say, hey, if I just try and look at this objectively, am I right? Is this person handling it wrong? And it's a super, like even this video, right? Like you can imagine not a lot of people want to watch this video. Not a lot of people want to hear this kind of abstract, convoluted way of thinking and like, wait, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to be sure and confident, but not that confident. I'm supposed to question, but even when I question and I'm trying to help somebody else, I need this step. It's messy and ugly and annoying and frustrating and all that stuff. And I get that. I really, really do. But that doesn't mean that it's not the best option we have of how to move forward. And that's my belief of it right now. And I get why people wouldn't like it. I get why people might not want to follow it. But I think you have to make that determination, or you should make that determination based on the logic of it. Break it down. Follow the thread. See what's actually happening. And if you come to that determination, awesome. Then let me know, because I'm open to it if that's right. But from where I sit, you just got to swim in this messiness and complexity and nuance and all that. And that's just the reality of the world.